The future moves fast. The AvePoint Shift Happens podcast is your edge, where leaders unpack AI, data, modern work, and the mindset shifts that turn change into advantage. Hear what top innovators are trying next and how to make it work. Visit avpt.co/shift today.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about is college football. More specifically, I want to talk about some college coaches who could be the next Coach Prime. Now, you don't necessarily have to know anything about college athletics or college football for that matter to know who Coach Prime is. If you've been hiding under a rock for the last couple of years, Coach Prime is the head football coach at the University of Colorado. Coach Prime is none other than the one, the only, Deion Sanders. He is arguably one of the greatest football players to ever play the game. And Deion was someone who was not a coach at one particular point in time in his life. And while he had no experience coaching as far as on the collegiate level, he coached in high school and he coached, I think, Little League as well. But he coached high school, and then he accepted a position a few years ago as the head football coach at Jackson State University in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, aka the SWAC. After 2 years at Jackson State, he was offered a position at the University of Colorado, where at the time of this recording, he is now serving in his third season as the head football coach. Now, Coach Prime obviously is someone who we all know, a lot of people love, a lot of people don't love, but Coach Prime is someone who really paved the way for a lot of people, more specifically a lot of coaches, and coaches, black coaches who don't necessarily have the experience or had the experience coming into taking a head coaching job in college. There are a couple of other professional athletes or former professional athletes who are looking to make the same splash that Coach Prime did. And I want to talk about them and kind of ask the question, could they be the next Coach Prime? The gentleman that I want to discuss, Eddie George, a former NFL player for the Tennessee Titans, had a great career in the NFL, one of the best running backs of his era, who was once the former head coach at Tennessee State University and is now the head football coach at Bowling Green University. Also, DeSean Jackson, former NFL wide receiver, played for many, many years in the league, one of the best receivers in his day. And, you know, he was a deep threat, a guy who was very electric on the field, and he was a threat to take it to the house any and every time he touched the ball. DeSean Jackson, who did not have any prior college coaching experience, is now the head football coach at Delaware State University in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, aka the MEAC, as well as Michael Vick. Many of you know Michael Vick is one of the most electrifying players of his era and possibly in football, period. The Michael Vick experience was something to see and something to behold. Michael Vick did have some experience as far as working with some, he wasn't an official assistant coach in the NFL, but he would go to training camps and learn a little bit under his mentor, Andy Reid. And now Michael Vick is the head football coach at Norfolk State University, which is also in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, as well as Delaware State. So I wanted to talk about those three gentlemen in particular. And there's a couple of concepts that I want to pass along that I think is very important when we talk about these guys. First and foremost, again, all three did not have any coaching experience as far as on the collegiate level before they took these jobs. Now, Eddie George is a little bit further along than Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson because, as I mentioned, Eddie George spent a few years at Tennessee State University where he had a very successful program. And this past spring, he was offered a position at Bowling Green and he leaped at the opportunity. So, in essence, Eddie George is a couple of steps ahead of where Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson are. But nonetheless, Eddie George had to prove himself at Tennessee State, and I think he did a pretty good job. Nonetheless, I think there's a couple of things that you have to keep in mind when you're talking about coaches. First and foremost, if we're being honest, it is very extremely difficult for black head coaches to move up in the ranks to these Power 5 schools. So you can be on the FCS level, which is where Jackson State is, which is where South Carolina State is, my alma mater, which is where Delaware State is and Norfolk State is. And then you can matriculate your way to the what they call Power 5s or FBS schools like Miami, Florida State, Colorado, UCLA for that matter. But it's very difficult to get head coaching positions when you're black. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen because obviously it does happen, but it doesn't happen with the frequency that we see black coaches see their white counterparts do. So you have to keep that in mind when you're looking at, the possibilities of those doors being open. So I want to go back to Deion. As I mentioned, Deion had never coached on a collegiate level. He goes from coaching his son in high school to getting the head coaching job at Jackson State. And I've done a few episodes on this. You can go check the archives. As many of you know, Deion led Jackson State to 2 Celebration Bowls where they did face off against North Carolina Central and South Carolina State University. Unfortunately for Jackson State, they lost both. The Bulldogs were triumphant. My Bulldogs, South Carolina State. Shout out to us. But nonetheless, I did a couple of episodes on that, and there was a lot of controversy when Coach Prime left Jackson State. There were a lot of alums from Jackson State. There were a lot of people who follow HBCU football. There were people like me who listened to what Deion was saying, and what Deion was selling was the dream of, black kids, black athletes going to HBCUs and pouring into those universities as opposed to going to the, Power 5 PWIs. And that happened. And that was the message that he preached for a little while. And then, something happened and the tide turned for him. I'm not mad at Deion. Now, I'll be honest. There are some Jackson State alum who still are upset with Deion. It's been a couple of years. I think most people have moved on. Jackson State subsequently this past year won the Black College National Championship. They actually beat South Carolina State University. So I did an episode on that as well. But, a lot of those kids were kids that were, recruited by Coach Prime. But nonetheless, Jackson State has moved on. Deion has moved on. Coach Prime has moved on. So his success at Colorado is a template that a lot of people have studied. Now, it does not hurt the fact that when Deion left Jackson State, that he took along his son, who was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in Deion Sanders, as well as one of probably the best athlete in college football in Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter subsequently won the Heisman Trophy this past season. So he had some players with him, because here's the thing. No matter where you go, you're going to need players, right? You're going to have to be able to recruit players. So I wanted to kind of give you that backdrop. So the thing that I will say when it comes to Eddie George, when it comes to DeSean Jackson, when it comes to Michael Vick, I think people have to be realistic with their expectations. Just because you have I don't want to use this, let's just say a high profile coach. Just because you have a high profile coach on the sidelines doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have more wins than you have losses. And the reason being is because here's the thing. A coach is only good as his staff. A coach is only good as his players. And so if you don't surround your players, if you don't surround your university with the right coaches and the right players, then it's not going to work anyway. So that was a template that Deion followed, and it worked for him at Jackson State. And, it's worked pretty much for him at Colorado as well. But I think when it comes to Eddie George at Bowling Green, I think you have to temper your expectations because it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, let's be honest. If you're a kid coming out of high school and you're a very good recruit and you're in Ohio, where Eddie George, who started at Ohio State, if you're really good, let's just be honest, Bowling Green is probably not tops on your list. Ohio State probably is, which is where, like I said, Eddie George graduated from. And who knows? Eddie George could very well take this position at Bowling Green, and it could be a stepping stone to him getting back to Ohio State to be the head coach. We don't know, right? But I think you have to temper your expectations. Do I think Eddie George can be successful at Bowling Green? Of course. Is it going to happen overnight? Probably not, because that's usually not how the way the things work. But, as far as Eddie George being a high-profile coach, I think he has that cachet. And then the thing that you want to do is that alone gets people associated with your program, the alumni base, the people who actually give the money to the university or the players, if for that matter. That gets them fired up when you have a high-profile coach on your sideline, because you can stick your chest out and say, hey, we got Eddie George and you don't. And that makes a difference. And Eddie George, I think, is a pretty good coach. But I think we're going to see how good he is at this next level, because this is a different level from what the level that he coached at Tennessee State. So you have to, temper your expectations. The same goes for DeSean Jackson. I think at Delaware State, I want to say Delaware State won maybe 2 games last year. So, it's not really a winning tradition there, at least here recently. As I mentioned, in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, Delaware State played against my alma mater, South Carolina State University. I remember playing against Delaware State when I was in college back in the 90s. And, we fared pretty well against Delaware State. At the time that I was in school in the mid-90s, Norfolk State, where Michael Vick wasn't in our conference. So I didn't get the chance to play against them. But, for the most part, over the last few years, when as far as the time that Norfolk State has been in our conference, South Carolina State has fared pretty well against them. I don't know the numbers, but you can look it up. But nonetheless, I think there's a couple of things that's going to come into play for DeSean Jackson and Michael Vick, respectively. One of the things that Deion was able to do at Jackson State was to tap into corporate sponsors.
I made the transition out of the military, but I didn't want to stop pushing my limits or protecting the nation. So I joined the CIA. Now I conduct strategic operations and intelligence activities globally. It's a career that draws on my significant military and leadership experience. Keep serving our nation's interests. Join the CIA's Directorate of Operations. Visit cia.gov/careers to learn more and apply.
The most sustainable way to love fashion isn't to stop shopping. It's to simply change the way you shop. So, change the way you shop with The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest, most trusted source for authenticated luxury resale. Every item kept in motion extends the life cycle of luxury and keeps it out of landfills. So, whether you shop secondhand on therealreal.com or exclusively purchase pieces you can sell back into rotation later, pass it on when you're done by selling it with The RealReal. You'll get money to shop Loewe, Celine, Prada, and more new-to-you finds. Then, repeat the cycle, guilt-free. Sell to shop, shop to sell with The RealReal. And only for the month of April, earn $100 extra when you sell with The RealReal. Go to therealreal.com to get started. and earn $100 extra this Earth month at therealreal.com. Terms apply.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It was, well documented of Deion's connections with corporate sponsors. I think they got some new facilities built. I think they got a new practice field. Those type of things matter because I'll be honest, folks, when you're selling HBCU football, you have to sell them on everything, not just the experience, but, kids like the flash and bang. They like, nice facilities. Now, I'm going to just keep it a bean. Like, if you're comparing the facilities at Florida State to the facilities at Jackson State, I mean, there's no comparison, right? But you can sell a kid on what the university can do for you, the overall experience of being at an HBCU, so forth and so on. But facilities is something that is very important to kids. And it's, how they relate to each other and where they're going to spend their most time. So if you've got a $50 million locker room, it's going to make sense for you to really hone in on liking something like that, because that's where you're going to spend a lot of your time. Trust me, as a former athlete, that's where you're going to spend most of your time, in your locker room and the dorm, if you live in a dorm or if you live off campus. So facilities for Norfolk State and Delaware State is going to be very important. Also, name, image, and likeness, or NIL. That's going to be very key for, Michael Vick, DeSean Jackson, as well as Eddie George. How much money can your program generate to where your players can get paid? Obviously, at a place like Bowling Green, I'm going to assume that they can attract, pretty decent players as far as money is concerned. HBCUs, it's a little bit different because you may or may not have that kind of money flowing throughout your athletic program, wherein, let's just say, a young 12 Kyle who might have been a 3-star receiver. If I go to Clemson, I probably could get, I don't know, an NIL deal for $300,000, $400,000. I'm probably not getting a $300,000, $400,000 deal at South Carolina State University. It's probably going to be, maybe, I don't know, $7,000 and some Mr. Wings chicken. or some coupons from the Brown Derby. Shout out to the Brown Derby. Or, a box of liquor from Kick Booty Liquors. Yes, there was a place in Orangeburg, South Carolina called Kick Booty. It's no longer here, but shout out to Kick Booty, man. It was a lot of liquor runs to Kick Booty, especially for me, for someone who didn't even drink, but that's another story for another day. So how you raise money, how much money is dispersed to the players, is going to make a difference. And it's going to make a difference in the type of athletes that you'll be able to pursue. So what's going to happen is the struggle will be different for Eddie George than it will be for Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson. Again, they're at HBCUs. Eddie George isn't anymore. The thing that I think people have to realize that Eddie George, DeSean Jackson, and Michael Vick are going to face is that progress takes time. Nothing happens overnight. You're not going to roll out of the bed and have an undefeated season and win the national championship. It just doesn't happen like that. But what happens is when you set foot on the campus, there's a level of expectation that you're going to make your program better in increments. And as long as you can stick to that and the people can see that you're constantly getting better, I think people will rock with you. From what I've seen on the campuses of Delaware State and Norfolk State, they're very happy with those coaches. Norfolk State is ecstatic because Michael Vick is from the area. He's from the Tidewater area, Hampton. I was going to say bad news. He's from Hampton, Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, that area, what they call the Tidewater area. So he's like a native son. So for him to be back in that area, I'm sure it makes it a whole lot easier to recruit. And then again, it's Michael Vick. Michael Vick is a household name. You know, Eddie George and DeSean Jackson aren't. I mean, let's just be honest. But progress takes time. So even though Norfolk State, I don't think I'm almost certain, without looking it up, I'm almost certain they've never won a conference title since they've been in the MEAC. And so it's going to take some time. And as it takes time, I think if the fans give Vic the time, he'll be able to get the athletes and hopefully get the money that he needs to get there to do what he needs to do so they can upgrade facilities and have NIL and have players coming through out there. As far as Eddie George is concerned, same thing. It's going to take time. Now, he's a little bit further along, but, you know, the alumni, the people who pay the NIL, the boosters, they're going to want to see success. Now, what success looks like, I'm not sure. I don't know what success looks like for Bowling Green. Success may be a 7-win season and playing in the Cheetah Bowl. I don't know. or the Cheerios Bowl. I don't know what that is. But I think if people give Eddie George time, he has a vision. And I think it starts with that vision. And you know that he's dedicated. We saw that at Tennessee State. I think he'll be fine. Last thing I will say is for the fans and the alumni from Bowling Green, Norfolk State, and Delaware State, I want to remind you just one simple thing. There is only one Coach Prime. When God made Deion Sanders, he only made one of those. He is truly a one of one. He is energetic. He is charismatic. He is a people in the media call him a lightning rod. He's a conversational piece. Like, you could actually sit and watch a Deion Sanders press conference and have no interest in whatever team that he's on, but you just want to hear him talk because he says so much and does so much. And he is a fascinating figure because, you know, some of what he says almost sounds like a preacher. And then some of what he says almost sounds like a player. And then some of what he says sounds crazy. And then some of what he says sounds very profound. And you get all of that wrapped into one. And that's who Coach Prime is. And so you have to ask yourself, like, can we do what Coach Prime did and do it the way that he did it? I think the answer to that is no, because Coach Prime's model has worked for Coach Prime. Case in point, as at the time of this recording, Coach Prime does not leave the campus of the University of Colorado to recruit their players. They bring the players to the campus. They don't follow the old model of going to see little Ronnie, you know, play his high school game on a Friday night. He doesn't do that. Now, he does have some assistants that do some traveling, but for the most part, they bring the players to the campus. As far as I know, from what I've been told, Deion has not left campus to go recruit an athlete. And they've managed to get very good athletes at Colorado, and that doesn't seem to change, or it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. So with that being said, what works for Coach Prime works for Coach Prime. And I think you have to understand that there's only one Coach Prime. I'll be honest. I want to see Eddie George. I want to see DeSean Jackson. I want to see Michael Vick do well. If for no other reason, one, they're brothers, and I'm always going to push and root for brothers, particularly in those positions, because I know that those positions are so few and far between. And I know, being a former athlete, most former athletes, and I ain't played football since 1996, right? 1995. So it's been almost 30 years. But I'm still competitive. And like, they are very competitive. They want to win. And just the type of coaches that I think they are, the type of men that I think that they are, I think that they will win. That being said, I want to see Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson do well, but I don't want to see them do well when they play against South Carolina State. Because here's the thing, folks, they're in our conference. So we got to play them, each team, once a year. And so I hope that Michael Vick and DeSean Jackson win all of their games except for the ones where they're playing South Carolina State University. I wish them well. I'm fans of all three. I enjoyed watching them their professional career. I live in the city of Atlanta, so I was here during the Michael Vick era, which was crazy. I mean, like, there should be like a study or documentary on just what that experience was like. Because if you were in this city at the time when Michael Vick was in his prime, before he, did that dumb shit and had dogs fighting, Michael Vick was like, he was must-see TV. And the thing that was interesting was, in football, it's rare that the best player on the field touches the ball every single play. But when he was on the field, he was the best player on the field, and he touched the ball every single play. So just to hear the oohs and ahs from the crowd, or how they would hold their breaths when he would drop back to pass, it was something special. I mean, like, the Georgia Dome would be rocking if you went to a Falcons home game. DeSean Jackson was a guy, again, who actually played sometime with Michael Vick when they were in Philadelphia. DeSean Jackson was so fast, and he had good hands, and he literally could take the ball to the house every single time he touched the ball. Eddie George was a bruising running back with a very aggressive style, but he was not going to back down. His battles with his Tennessee Titans against the Baltimore Ravens and Ray Lewis were epic battles. And I think those moments in the NFL help develop the men that they have become. And I think they're going to be good coaches. I'm hoping that they'll be great coaches. Just don't be great against South Carolina State. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday. Also, we have a new baby. It's called the Rap Soul Podcast. Listen, it's my personal podcast where we talk about music and artists from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, hip-hop, soul, and R&B. Listen, folks, it's the best music podcast that you've never heard. You can find it wherever you're listening or watching this podcast right now. We drop new episodes there every Monday and every Friday. If you're on social media, check me out, 12 Kyle Podcast, Rap Soul Podcast, across the board. If you'd like to contribute to this podcast financially, hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Also, we have merch. Click the merch link in the description box. There you can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. That's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Maybe you recognize this voice. Andy Betterman here of the injury law firm Greenberg & Betterman. For over 35 years, we've been helping people in the DMV with auto accidents and medical malpractice. Get a free consultation by visiting gblawyers.com and feel better.